Hello guys, I'm Orbiter, your Welsh engineer, and welcome to our Jool expedition. And this time we're going to be snowboarding to Val. If you're unsure, Val is one of the moons around Jool, and it is sort of like an icy moon. It's the Caspi equivalent of Europa, which is in orbit around Jupiter, or is that Sun? I think it's around Jupiter, yes. And basically they think it's an ice world with perhaps an ocean under the ice. One day, NASA want to send a probe that can dig under the ice, or perhaps melt its way through the ice into the ocean, and explore under there to see if there is life under there, or events or something possible. And yes, not everything goes to plan on this mission. Luckily, that was just a test and I misfired. Unfortunately, I quick saved because I was experimenting. And yes, luckily I didn't put the Kerbals in there, so everything's going to be fine. And you can see we got 2 rovers this time for this mission. So let's get this into orbit. And then we can launch the transfer stage. Yeah, I'm building a 2-stage or 2 launch system. I find it a bit easier to do because you launch the lander, you know what you're going to need. You don't have to stage everything perfectly. You launch the transfer craft up, and then you can use that just to tug the lander on the way to Jool. Okay, this is in orbit, solar panels are out. Let's launch the transfer stage. As you can see, I'm using the same transfer stage, and that's because I built the return stage on the top. Now, I've made a mistake, I think. I'm not entirely sure because I haven't tested them fully on Replanet. Let's get the words here. Returning from planetary expeditions at extremely high velocities and re-entering the atmosphere of Kerbin. Yeah, the top stage where you've got the 2 heat shields, inflatable heat shields, that's going to be the return part, and it's got wings to make sure it flies straight and doesn't flip over, which seem to work on high-speed deorbits on Kerbin when you're from high altitudes. But I haven't tested on planetary speed or interplanetary speeds. Is that the word you're supposed to use? Possibly. Also, I've made one amendment. I put space probes on this, and you can see the little sort of like egg capsules under the rocket legs, I suppose you could call them. And they were supposed to be there so that we can release the space probes, use the antennas to communicate with all the missions that are going on around Jool, because they got in about 2,000 meters per second delta V. However, I made a mistake. Perhaps I'll talk about it now because I don't actually use them in this video. I was meant to turn the ejection force of the decouplers of the space probes down to 0 so that they just sort of like float away. But no, I left them at full force, so if I eject them, they will hit the center spacecraft. So I may try to use one at a later date, but yeah, we'll see what happens, because when we get them into the transfer stage, we won't need the when we get them into the return stage, we won't need the transfer stage, so we could possibly sacrifice it. And I wasn't going to re-engineer it. I was thinking, I've got this sort of like thing, after I re-engineered everything, after I tested everything, and I think this is fine, and I go on the mission, that's it. No more testing, no more quick save and revert flights. That's a lie, come on Mark. Own up to it. Yes, I do a quick saves and quick loads on this because I was testing the landing stage, and you'll see when we come to it. But let's quickly quick save this, and don't forget, do quick save, do name your quick saves, because that means you have multiple points that you can restore from, because I use it too often, use the F5 and then F9, and then find that F5 too early or too late from when I wanted to reload. So yes, quick save, use a named quick save. That's Alt F5 if you're on the PC, not sure about console, sorry. And like NASA, you can ensure that your space probes will arrive in the correct position and you won't mess up your quick saves and whatnot. Yes. And as you probably noticed, this burn took me about 7 minutes. I used MechJet for this because, well, I could get some of the awesome shots of the flybys and everything. And also, I think MechJet on this is allowed. One, it saves me to keep on having to monitor the ship while it's doing a long burn, like 7 minutes. I can go away and do something while I let the camera record by itself. And then secondly, I can be lazy. Yay! Not really. I don't do everything automatically. You can see I've got MechJeb on the front of the craft, which is the return stage, which is the part that the Kerbals need precision, maneuverabilities and everything. However, the lander, if you notice, has no MechJeb on it. That will have to be done manually. And look, lightning storms on Jool. And why are lightning storms interesting, you say? Well, that's a good question, and it is a good answer as well. Because if Jool is an analog for Jupiter, then lightning storms on Jupiter is about 1,000 times more violent and more destructive than they are on Earth. But as I said, about 1,000 times more destructive, more powerful. So yeah, that's interesting stuff to know, because if we send a space probe into the atmosphere of Jool for exploration of any kind, then we know to protect it from lightning strikes. They're about 1,000 times more violent than that on Earth. Anyway, as I'm not talking about the video, as you probably saw, we got into a highly elliptical orbit around Jool, then we raised the periapsis. Luckily, I had an encounter as we were raising the periapsis, but we have to get into orbit. We can't just slingshot past this, because as you'll probably notice, that if we don't get into this orbit, we'll impact the surface of Jool. And that's because Val has given us a slingshot which will send us into a lower orbit, but that'll put our periapsis into the surface, or inside of Jool's atmosphere, so we don't want that. We've got Kerbals on board. It was okay when the space probe deorbited by accident. We at least had the F5, F9 like NASA does. Still convinced that they have F5 capabilities. Quick save and quick load. But anyway, we've only got our 798 meters per second to get into orbit. That's not too bad. I think we've got the fuel reserves for that. We should have enough for the lander. Again, I don't know why. I've disabled the crossfeed on the docking port. However, we're still using the fuel within the lander. Did I misread something? Did I click enable by accident and I was meant to... It's disabled by default? I'll have to check and keep testing. It could be a bug, it could be a mod that I've installed which has caused problems. And something I've noticed on our return craft, I've added an extra 4 parachutes on the return spacecraft. I don't think the other return craft that we have in orbit around Bob at the moment, no, Paul, it's around Paul, I don't think it's got enough parachutes to descend safely. Or perhaps it's because I've reused an older version of the return craft and this is one with less parachutes. I hope that's so, because that means the other craft will be able to return safely. But now we have to concentrate, because now we are going to land on Val. As you can see, I've done a steep deorbit. That way we can down safely straight on the location, but this is also because we got a low thrust weight ratio. That means we need to burn off as much speed as quickly as high as possible, and that's apparently not the most efficient. You can see on previous attempts, there's one of the rover wheels, we crash. That's because of burning a bit too late. I was trying to treat this as a low gravity moon, but it's not. Val is a lot bigger than that, man. And I forgot to take that into account. It's been a while since I come to Val. In fact, I built a couple of bases on Val in my Kerbal quest. But at least now we've killed our velocity. I think we get down to, was it 200 meters per second at 30 kilometers. And then from here, I just keep the speed down. I think we drop down to 100 kilometers, 100 meters per second by here. Oh, we can see the video's running now. Yep. I always like to keep things in chunk sizes. So like, if you're going to meet the surface of a planet, make sure it's at a 100 meters per second or 200. Never the odd numbers, and I don't know why. And we seem to have a bit of wobble while we're descending. I was a bit worried that this somehow might shake the craft apart, but it seems to stabilize it if I don't thrust so much. Oh, so high. I think it's the SAS, because I haven't got MechJeb on here with the smart SAS, which is one of the reasons why I like using MechJeb. Even if I don't use them advanced features like landing, launching, it's got the smart SAS on it, which will enable you to have more precise control. It's a bit more fuel efficient for your RCS if you're using RCS, and it's a bit more smart. It'll slow down way before you get to the direction that you want to point in. Anyway, bringing us down gently. I believe these legs are rated for something like 10 meters per second. Any faster and will impact. This is a very slow descent. But look at Jewel in the background. I think this is one of the awesome shots. Okay, the lander is ugly. And yes, I did time warp when I decoupled the fairing. That was because it just jiggles about. It didn't destroy anything. Whoa, one of the rovers away. Nick, quick, catch up to it. Wait, don't destroy your helmet. By the way, Nick is one of the Kerbalnauts who asked to become a Kerbal on this mission. All you have to do is write Kerbal in the description and add the name you want to be called. Quick, in the seat. Brake. Well done, Nick. Okay, it looks like we've saved the rover. And as you can see, I've got mod on this. It's the Kerbal attachment system. It's a container where you can store stuff in, and the Kerbals can use tools to attach equipment to other things. I reckon this should be stock. Kerbals need a bit more of a role in this game, because at the moment all they can do is science, fix wheels, and what else was there? They can pilot and everything, but that's inside the craft. They can also repack parachutes. Yes, that's it. Okay, let's get the Kerbals out. Lycan Kerman. You're going to be driving the second rover around for science. They're looking for a place where they can drill a hole and perhaps someday drop a probe into the oceans under the surface. Okay, let's get the other Kerbals out. So we have to save in it. Make sure we save it. If we destroy the rovers, we can reload. I'll let you read the name of this Kerbal out, because someone decided to smash their face into the keyboard. Kerban. That's what I should have called him. Okay, read his name. Good. Let's get him out on our mission. Yeah, we've only got 6 seats in the rover. We've got 9 Kerbals, so that we've got 3 Kerbals to do science around the lander and plant flags. Okay, this is Bad Guy Kerman. He's a scientist. Go figure. Bad guy scientist, evil scientist. Get it? Okay, I don't know. And this is Yuri Kurbarin Kerman. There's a mouthful in it. Anyway, another scientist, or was he an engineer? I can't remember. I'm sure I put several engineers and several pilots, and, you know, try to equal them all out. And it looks like he's got superpowers. Alright, what is that symbol? Does anyone know? I'm not going to bother looking it up. I want to look at my comments and see what people say. I don't know. What is it? Let me know. It looks like he's got superpowers, or he's going to evolve or something, like a Pokemon. Well, let's get Jesse Kerman out on EVA. Luckily, no one destroys the helmet. And if you use the Kerbal attachment system mod, you can try to remove the helmets. If they're in oxygen atmosphere, then they will allow you to remove the helmets, which is cool. But I always try it on, on any of the moons without an oxygen atmosphere, or no atmosphere at all. Anyway, that was Austin Kerman, and this is Albert Liam Kerman. Yeah. I couldn't read it properly then. And then lastly, Alex Kerman. I think Alex has been on some of my Kerbal Quest missions. Long outstanding Kerbal. Okay, your 3 Kerbals are going to be doing some science around the lander. Make sure everything's ready as well for takeoff, because still not entirely 100% sure this is going to take off and get to orbit. But first off, let's get these Kerbals out on their rovering mission. I've been considering, is it possible to send humans to explore Europa? Notwithstanding, let's forget about the travelling to Jupiter or Saturn. That would take yonks and they'd probably go mad in doing so. But would they survive? Because apparently there is high radiation belts around Jupiter. Even if the moon's out of the radiation belts and is in a sort of like a safe zone, you'd still get radiation from the sun and everything else because there's no atmosphere. Don't forget the magnetic fields around Jupiter might protect some of the moons around there, but it doesn't protect from all types of radiation. And that is because here on Earth we have the atmosphere. And yes, I'm trying the Follow Me Kerbal mod. I like how they like walking in the seats. You can make a Flintstone car out of this. Oh, and there's the Kerbal with his superpowers again. Okay, the following Kerbal mod does not work in 1.4.3, so yeah, let's stop the Kerbals walking on the spot if we can. And he's got his superpowers back again. Why? It must be that Kerbal follow mod or something. You can walk, run. You can set them for patrol as well with this mod. I'm not sure if it'll work that way. Anyway, let's get Bad Dad Karum, because he's a scientist, to assemble some scientific instruments. We're going to leave them at different points. They serve no real purpose, but in the interest of a let's play, let's do it. And yeah, this wall, the rock is walked through. I think some of the rocks aren't as well. I've done this mistake before. I've driven around, I thought, right, I've driven through some rocks and I thought, alright, all the rocks are not real, they're just sort of like part of the scatter mod. And then you drive into a rock which is real. Your rover crashes, some of your Kerbals die, some of the Kerbals survive. However, the worst part is you did not quick save. So that means no way of reloading after you quick crashed the rover. Luckily, this rover is almost destruct proof. Although I'm not going to fully test that out. I think you'll find that at some point we inadvertently are going to find out how to test this. I'm thinking about it now. I think I forgot to disable the reaction wheel on the probe core. Although at some points it can help you keep steady on the ground. As sometimes if you're turning, it can cause you to flip out. And that is what I meant by that the rover is indestructible. As you can see, the Kerbals survived. They were knocked out of the seats. The rover is intact. The only thing is we lost with the science equipment. Try the follow mod again. No, it's not working. But watch this. Okay, so I board the rover. Kerbal slept there. I'm going to switch to him using the bracket keys. Can't switch to him like that. And, right, he's right by the rover. So I think the follow me mod is working. But for some reason, it's not animated, it's not updating his position. They must have changed the way that KSP works in the new update. Probably to fix some kind of glitch or bug. And I finally found some science that these Kerbals can do by the lander. The follow mod works! Yay! It must be a glitch that it didn't work. Or something, I don't know. We have to try this with loads of Kerbals, perhaps get about 20 Kerbals to the following mod, following one Kerbal, and see if we can get them all in one line. Anyway, let's get the other Kerbals out in EVA and do some science, while we talk about a new game which has just recently come out, Jurassic World. The follow-up from Jurassic Park, I think one of the latest of the films which is released. Jurassic World game is a game where you can actually build the theme park itself. I don't think any other game has properly done it, but this time you can. But this game you have to manage the dinosaurs, make sure they're safe, make sure the public is safe, keep the front dinosaurs from attacking each other, which I think will be an awesome thing to actually do, is cause them to attack each other. I want the Indominus Rex to face off 2 T-Rexes. See what happens. And yeah, it's one of those games. I think this game I might actually buy. I don't play those games that much, but because there's dinosaurs in it, I think I might actually have a go at it. Anyway, let's try and put this thing straight. Just rolls around. Okay, it's gonna explode. Anyway, this is the end of the video. If you want to be a Kerbal, write Kerbal in the comments below, and then type the Kerbal name you want to be known as. Because I'm Orbator. Trust me, I'm gonna land you all on Jewel.